Mazeroski was standing on the other side of me, and somebody told me that I had to kiss one or the other of you. I'm not sure it would have been you that I kissed. But also, at the end of the 1960 season, we've mentioned Mickey Vernon here a number of times. His daughter Gay is here. And Danny Murtaugh and Mickey Vernon are two names that are mentioned in the same breath very, very frequently in Delaware County, and especially around this place. And at the end of the 1960 World season, my grandfather activated Mickey, and he got into a few games before the season was over, and that allowed Mickey Vernon to become one of the rare ball players to have played in games in 4 different decades. He came up as a rookie in 1939, so he played in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and then in 1960. That's quite an achievement, and I think a sign of their long-lasting friendship that went through all the way back to boyhood, and the fact that my grandfather never did ever forget his friends. As we know, he had some health problems. He retired a number of times. The Society for American Baseball Research, SABR, has actually referred to him as the king of retirements because he led the National League, at least in those categories. And then in 1976, it was his final retirement. He retired at the end of the season, saying at the press conference that he wanted to spend some more time with his grandchildren. And sadly, it was just 2 months later that he died, so it wasn't that much extra time at all. There are so many stories about him that we could tell that are outside of baseball. 2 in particular stand out to me. One time, he was quite a jokester. Some dear friends, some old friends of his, Joe and Doris Sieber, they bumped into them at a restaurant in the old Media Inn, I think it was called, and they were having a buffet. And my grandparents were just about finished eating when the Siebers came in, and as my grandparents were leaving, they stopped at the Siebers table to sit and chat, and the Siebers went up to get their food from the buffet. And while they were doing that, my grandfather took all the silverware that he could find, and salt and pepper shakers and different things, and stuffed them into Doris Sieber's purse. And then as they were leaving the restaurant, he told the manager, you should check that lady out here. She's been stealing some things. And another one, remembering his own poor childhood, perhaps he grew up with not very much in the way of financial resources. When my father was going to college, he had won a baseball scholarship to the College of the Holy Cross up in Worcester, Massachusetts. And my grandfather sent a note to the baseball coach up there and said, please use the money for that scholarship and give it to another player, another student who maybe doesn't have the family resources to pay for school, and give my son a scholarship to somebody else. And my dad wanted to play at Holy Cross anyway. Outside of baseball, I remember him mostly just as grandpa. And I remember mundane things about him coming over one time, I don't know why this sticks out, coming to see the new Mr. Coffee machine that we'd had installed in our kitchen. I don't know why that one sticks out, but I remember it. I remember going with him to a fire hall somewhere around here for a Christmas thing where every kid got a toy, and Christmas was definitely his favorite time of year. He shopped for Christmas presents all year long, and he traveled the country a lot, so he'd buy Christmas presents in the different cities during baseball season even. And I remember going to a Ridley St. James football game with him one time and sitting in the stands and just watching the game. I was a little kid. He was at a football game with Grandpa. And it was about halftime when the public address announcer announced that Danny Murtaugh was in the crowd and asked him to stand up. And so he did, and he waved to everybody. And then from that point on, there was a steady stream of people coming up trying to get autographs from him. And he signed all the autographs. But eventually, we had to leave, in fact, because it had become a distraction and people were trying to watch the game and not actually able to. And it was a neat way to be a kid. It was a neat way to be a kid to have your grandpa running a Major League Baseball game. And I count myself very lucky to have been one of the 6 grandchildren of Danny Murtaugh, because he's a guy who never forgot where he came from, never forgot his humble beginnings, never forgot his friends, never forgot Chester, PA, or Delaware County, and never really got outside of himself or got too big of a head about it, except for maybe one time when it was after the 1960 World Series, and he was sitting at home, the Pirates had won, and he was reading a newspaper article about himself, and he's sitting there. It's just Grandpa and Grandmom, and Grandmom sitting there doing her knitting, and he turned to her and he said, "Kate, how many really great managers do you think there are in baseball today?" And she didn't even look at him, and she said, "Well, I think there's one less than you do." So I think Grandma got the best of him on more than one occasion. But it's been a great evening, and we certainly thank everyone, and especially Jim and Steve Berman for putting this on. And thank you all very much. Bruce Markison had one story that he said he wanted to relate, and I'm to pass it off to him for one final thought.